Hi friends, it's Lexi aka Light Ones, and today's reading is a what you need to hear right now reading. This is probably the fattest set of piles that I've ever put together, so I'm excited. And as always, before you go into picking, please remember that these are general readings, that I'm reading for a collective of people here. So take what resonates and leave what doesn't. And with that out of the way, at this time you can go into picking a pile. If you haven't already, feel free to pause the video here if you need to. Today's piles are 1, 2, and 3 with the amethyst, calcite, and the salmon calcite. Okay, pile 1, if you're here, this is your reading. I'm going to start with the Psychic Tarot Oracle first. Fulfillment of wishes, light, truth, financial and material changes, positive movement forward, temptation, material and spiritual prosperity, and triumph. Okay, so when I look at this spread as a whole, for the most part, I feel like I'm looking at things that are mostly physical. When we have 9 of Cups here, fulfillment of wishes, the only thing that really makes me think of in regards to like thoughts, feelings, emotions is manifesting things, putting your intentions out there for yourself. I feel like that's sort of what's been dominating your headspace for the most part. And then in the rest, it's pretty much dominated by like physical things, like money, work, just like physical realms more so. There's just an emphasis on that. And then we also have these like major arcana cards, which is a little bit different. For the most part, I just feel like you're at this place where you are focusing more so on things like work, finances, material abundance. I just am feeling a lot of like manifestation towards abundance right now in general. I feel like something that is coming up for you guys is that in the next few months, and you should have been seeing this a little bit already, is the fact that there's going to be different ways that things can manifest for you. And with that, there is the opportunity for choice. You're given a lot of different choices now. You have like choices that aren't all going to be compatible with each other, so you're gonna have to make some hard decisions sometimes. And I feel like this has to do with like a lot of work related things. Maybe it has to do with your own hobbies, pursuits. I feel like some of you might be like entrepreneurs or like are trying to build up your hobbies, maybe just some of your own passions, working towards something in general. I don't know, it does feel just sort of physical, so I'm just throwing that out there. And so with the opportunities of like choice, decision making, and whatnot, I feel like there's going to be ones, we have temptation here, that aren't necessarily, they're not all equal, right? So some of them are just going to be a little bit more not in line with like your overall life path or like what you actually want to do 5-10 years from now. I feel like they will appear like they are really beneficial opportunities, but if you look at them a little bit closer, you'll see that they are actually more like shortcuts, is the word that's coming to my head. Yeah. There's overall just like a lot of earthy energy here with like the pentacles. We have 8 of Pentacles, positive movement forward, you working on things, trying to get things done. Also with like this boat imagery, I feel like this could be like you having to move away from things. We also have financial and material changes, with the 5 being like the frequency of loss, having to lose things. So there is that sense of having to lose things in order to get things. So you have to make room for the things that you want, right? So I feel like some of you have done that already quite a bit. You might see that come up a little bit more again and again. I feel like you're getting pretty used to that process though. So I feel like that's not something that you have to focus on as much right now. When the opportunity to say no to things and to move away from things that you once had comes up, I feel like you'll be pretty comfortable with that. It's more so the matter of like receiving things and not being sure like which ones are the ones for you. But I do see you in general just like moving towards a really good place. We have Chariot, we have Six of Pentacles, material and spiritual prosperity. I feel like one of the things that I have to add with this card is that when you receive things, the people that are already in your life are going to notice and there are also people like that are outside of your life that are watching that are going to notice. And I think you just have to be a little bit careful of jealousy of now that you have like gained things. This is a little bit more down the line, but I feel like if you looked closely right now at your present, you would be able to pick up on it, the ways that people might be a little bit more jealous or just, I don't want to say like take advantage of you, because I feel like for the most part some people aren't like even like conscious of the fact that they're doing this, or the fact that they're like trying to take things from you, or I don't know. I feel like you're just gonna be inclined to want to help people, so I just want to add that to focus on yourself first, because again, you don't know when you're gonna experience like that up and down. You don't know when you're gonna experience the down part of that roller coaster, you know? You never know when you're gonna hit like a down point and then go back up again. So even though you know that you're gonna go back up again eventually, you never know when that like downhill period is coming. Yeah. The other thing that I want to add with like light, this like feeling of joy, is to remember to enjoy yourself. I know that you're like sort of in this place where you're just like working a little bit more towards a larger goal. I just want to add that you can still have fun in the meantime. It's okay to like have a break every now and then, and to remember to enjoy yourself in the process of working too. Don't just, you know, keep the cogs moving without having a little bit of fun in between. And we can do oracle messages now. Nourishment, change, faith. Yes, okay. I'm gonna read a little bit from each of these. I'm gonna read from change first because that's where I flipped to randomly. Seasonally, there are times of the year that have at their essence a profound sense of change, usually the shoulder seasons of autumn and spring. It is at these times of the year we can feel more easily the shift between one season and another. The moon shines down upon the winds of change, the clearing storms, the electric crackle of lightning, and the boom of thunder echoing across the valley. There is great energy to be channeled at a time in such a time, and to be focused towards writing change with joy and ease. The affirmation that is associated with this card in this book is, I welcome change and I write its energy. I feel like this is something you're doing really well already. I think this is just adding that, you know, this is something, again, I said like in the next few months, so when springtime rolls around, I think you'll start to see more like tangible progress being made. Or depending on when you're watching this, I guess that could be autumn already for you. But I'm gonna say spring for the majority of people that are watching this right now. Nourishment. The affirmation that is written on the guidebook for this card is, I choose to nourish myself. All of us have a set of values that are as individual as our fingerprints. Sometimes we aren't sure what they might be if asked, but unconsciously we know. How do we know? Because if our values are not being met or lived, we rebel. We get angry, sad, depressed, irritable, or stuck, or we take the chaotic choice in our decision making, and commonly our relationships in life are not harmonious. Yes, I feel like, again, with this like theme of joy that I felt earlier, it's really important that you're actually like enjoying the work that you're doing, that you're enjoying the process. Because if something feels out of sync, or like suddenly you're not enjoying yourself anymore, I think that that means that you need to like reevaluate the choices that you're making, or the choice that you made. And if you already feel like you've locked down on a decision that like you're looking back on and you're like, oh no, I should have done something else, it's okay to change that. Like, there are other ways to get outside of that decision. You don't need to feel boxed into one or two things if you've chosen something. This path is a lot more fluid than you think it is. There's a lot of ways to get to the material abundance that you're looking for, so just keep that in mind. And faith. The affirmation written on the guidebook for this card is, I know all will be well. We learn by observing the seasons that the light does return. The barrenness of winter turns infinitely and surely into spring. The ice melts, the days grow longer and the nights grow shorter. Warmth and fertility slowly return to the land. It is hard to have faith in ourselves and the universe. Faith requires us to let go of our anxieties and have trust, perhaps in something we can't actually see yet. Having a more complete faith in yourself and a higher power to lead you to your greatest good is a solid intention. While having a rigid blind faith does not serve us, it is important to hold on to our dreams and intentions and to focus on the outcome. To do this without taking note of what is happening around us can be folly. Yes. Okay, again, I feel like this is just getting a little bit repetitive now, because it's just talking about how you know, when you're manifesting things. Again, I think I'm saying things that you know. In a lot of ways, I feel like I'm just repeating things that you already know in order to like affirm them so that you know that you're on the right track, which I feel like you are. This is just like having faith in your own ability to make your own decisions, in your own ability to make things happen for yourself in order to manifest, etc. And I think the times where you might feel like you're like going down the wrong path or you're making the wrong choice are times when your faith in yourself is low. So when you're just like lacking confidence in yourself and your ability to make choices, or you're like lacking confidence in the realisticness, the reality of your goal of the future, like that is also something that's going to cause you to like shortcut or to pick things that you feel might be like safer, you know, like that kind of stuff. So in general, I just feel like these are just affirming messages. So yeah, I think that, oh, there's one more card. Expand. Yeah, okay, again, I feel like the one thing that this group does need to hear that I guess you wouldn't be as conscious of is just the way that your goal doesn't have to look like one or two things. I feel like you have a lot of different ideas of the ways that things might happen for you, but if you think about it, like that goal that you're aiming towards, there's so many ways to get there. So if you just think about how, you know, like even the ways that you're thinking about it right now, like that can balloon too, like that can expand even more. So just think about it that way, and I feel like that should like ease your anxieties a little bit. I think you might be a little bit worried that you're like blocking yourself off or something, but you're not. There's a lot of ways that things can happen here. So yeah, okay, now that does conclude your reading, pile one. I hope that this resonated with you or helped in some way. If so, please feel free to like, comment, subscribe, all those fun things. I post new videos hopefully every week, and so I will see you then. Bye, pile one. Hi, pile two. If you're here, this is your reading, so I'm just gonna jump into it. We're gonna start with the Psychic Tarot Oracle. Oh, I should put the citrine back. I don't know why I did that. We have Fertility, Empress, Hope, Star, Power, so Strength, Harmony, so Lovers. Okay, also I swear that I didn't like split the deck. It's just being all major arcana right now for some reason. Oh, there we go. Okay, Five of Cups, Emotional Loss, Wisdom, Hierophant, Heart Chakra, and Three of Swords. So when I'm looking at these, I'm seeing like a heartbreak, a relationship ending, something like that. Maybe a friendship ended. It does look sort of like romantic though, and definitely related to other people. So if that's not what you're going through right now, I'm sorry, but this is just sort of screaming out to me, and that's probably what the bulk of the reading is going to be about. I'm looking at Three of Swords, heartache and loss, and right below the Lovers, so something possibly breaking off there. We have the Five of Cups, emotional loss, and heart chakra. So this is like very related. We're looking at like emotional pain, things coming from the heart space. But we overall, when I'm looking at these three cards, I feel like you have a pretty good attitude towards everything. You're trying really hard to just sort of like persevere and get through it, which is really admirable. Hope, power, fertility, like Empress, like trying to like manifest things for yourself. Hope also being that, like in both of these cards, you know, they're like both holding something, they're bringing something to fruition, trying to make things happen for themselves. The thing is that when I'm looking at these, I don't feel anything too specific, so I do feel like you're just sort of saying like, okay, I'm moving on from one situation and I'm looking for something better, and I deserve good things. I'm gonna go get myself good things. I'm gonna manifest myself some really wonderful things, and I feel like they're not as honed down right now, like your desires, the things that you're manifesting right now, which is natural. You're moving from one phase to another. You need time in between in order to like really craft a really great like wish list almost of things that you're looking for in the future. Okay, 5, Wisdom, Hierophant. I feel like this is pointing out the ways that like if you need to do a lot of like conventional things in order to make yourself feel better, to do like the typical, I don't know, breakup things, or the typical moving on from a situation, heartbreaking emotional situation type of things, you can do those. Like I feel like this group in the past has had a lot of situations that are like really unique in the way that they have, for some reason the only phrase that's coming to my head is like broken you down. When you went through like difficult emotional situations in the past, they feel like they were really unique situations, and the way that you coped with them and the way that you had to like get out of them were with unconventional coping mechanisms and methods, and you had to like push yourself through in your own unique way. And this is one of those situations where you don't necessarily have to do that. Like you can use the advice of other people in this situation. You can reach out to people and ask for help, and they would give you advice that's probably applicable to your situation, whereas in the past I'm not sure that that was the case all of the time. I hope that makes sense. I feel like I'm looking at more like of a conventional difficult situation where you just need to grant yourself some time to get over it, and then you move forward. While I admire this attitude that you have of like make something new and like balance yourself and persevere and get through, this is going to be a lot more helpful for you like in the next month, where you have sort of collected yourself a little bit more. I do feel like you've been spending some time alone and like trying to collect yourself and move forward, but I do feel like you can grant yourself a little bit more time. I know that you are kind of like in this space where you're just like tired and you kind of just want to move on already, but it's really important that when you move forward, you are like wrapping up the past in a really neat bow, and you can like throw it away and know that nothing can pop out of it. Like you've like tied it up, it's solid, it's not gonna pop out, you know? Like it should just be cleanly dealt with, put away entirely, because when you move forward, you want to be able to have like an entirely clean slate. So I don't really feel like you have that quite yet. Like I feel like you're really, really close, but there's still things that are lingering a little bit that could use a little bit more attention and clarity. So I just want to point that out. I'll do oracle cards now. Release, fruition, abundance. Yes, okay, let's swap these two because 37, 38. These two are very related. And then we have the final oracle card, which is energize. Okay, yes. And now I'm going to read from the Queen of the Moon oracle. Release. The affirmation that's written on this card is, or on the guidebook for this card is, I freely release what I no longer need. There is a payoff if we decide to finally release something we no longer need. The payoff is as individual as you are, but there will be a universal feeling of making space for something new. What the most important payoff is for you may be different for someone else who is giving up the same habit, but it needs to be clear in your mind, body, and spirit. Let it go. It is time to release anything that does not serve you. Old negative habits do not engage you anymore, as the payoff is not enough. You are ready to make room for bigger, brighter, more aligned things. Yeah, so in general, again, just making sure that your slate is completely clean, that you have nothing lingering left. Just being really thorough with the cleansing process is important. And then we will read from fruition and abundance, which I feel like are very related. When we are able to bring something to fruition, whether it be a planting, a project, or a change in ourselves, it is the perfect time to celebrate all that we are grateful for and mark our achievement. We may have worked very hard to bring this new situation into reality. We have been patient in the way. We have worked overtime and sacrificed much to make it happen. And abundance. Take advantage of this time of abundance. It is all around you. Possibility and opportunity are everywhere. You are open and responsive to the abundance around you. There is enough for everyone. Yeah, okay. So when I'm especially also looking at energize, I feel like it's important. So once you release all this stuff, which is important because then you'll have like more energy to actually use these things and bring forth the things that you're looking for. Once you do this, then you'll have this like really awesome period where kind of like what you want, you just have to like ask for it, you know? You have to be open to receiving things. You have to say like, yes, I deserve this thing. And it's okay if you want to be a little bit more specific with those things, because when I'm looking at these, again, I don't really feel like these are as specific like attitudes, goals, manifestations as they could be. So don't do that yet. Do this first, and then once you're done with that, in a few weeks or a month or so, come back to this and start just like, if it helps you to write it down or something, to literally like come up with a wish list of things that you want, do that. Like just make sure that you aren't asking for anything too small, like you're not selling yourself short. You can get what you ask for, you know? Okay. I think that's it, pile 2. I don't feel anything else, so that does conclude your reading. If you enjoyed your reading, please feel free to like, comment, subscribe, all those fun things. I try to post a new video every week, so I will see you then. Bye, friends. Hi, friends. If you're here, you probably picked pile 3 with the salmon calcite. So let's just jump into that. We have Hermit, Solitude, 8 of Cups, emotional withdrawal, disruption, stand your ground, spiritual union, foundation and achievements, rejoice and celebration, movement, choices, decisions. Okay. We're just gonna start with these 8 cards, and then we will move on to the other oracle cards. So this pile is a lot more scattered than the other 2 two piles. There's a lot more going on. I feel like the other two piles were a lot more targeted and had more specific messages or common themes going on in their lives, but this one feels like it's a little bit more all over the place. We have cups, we have water energy, we have major arcana, we have fire, wands, and we have pentacles. The only thing that's missing is air. So I feel like we're at a point where we were kind of focusing on more action-based things, more tangible things, and the emotional things. We're not so much focused on the mental or like the ideological or anything like that. Everything that you're doing when you're like alone by yourself right now, with these two cards, solitude and emotional withdrawal, I feel like you're going through some alone time phases right now. What you're doing when you're in that place, it feels a little bit more like you're trying to spend time with yourself, almost like without thinking, like you're trying to ice out thoughts and focus a little bit more on emotions, on your passions, on physical things. I feel a lot of relation between like mind and body, emotion and body. The way that like your emotional body is working right now is really related to like your physical body is something else I feel really strongly for this group. So that means that if you're like having a hard time emotionally, maybe then you're also having a hard time like remembering to eat, or you're also having a hard time sleeping or stuff like that. Those two things in your life are really related right now. I feel like that's important to point out. I'm gonna read from Disruption. Oh, yes, okay. Disruption, the Tower. To be forewarned is to be forearmed. This disruption card is a reminder that negative thinking, limiting beliefs, ignoring problematic situations, and risky or careless lifestyles must be addressed so that positive changes can take place. Life has a habit of moving you forward whether you're ready or not. Transformation of body, mind, and soul can happen if you view this dramatic time or change as an opportunity for growth. In the future, you may look back and be thankful for this opportunity. And then right next to it, we also have the Seven of Wands, stand your ground. Like the phrase that I associate with this card every single time is courage against the odds. So even when you feel like you're at like an uphill battle, you're at a disadvantage, you're like looking at things by yourself and you have to like do everything on your own, you're still like moving forward, you're still making progress, you're still progressing with like a strong will. And then at the bottom, we have like a completely different energy. I feel like it's important that this layer is at the top because I feel like this is much more like self-related things. You're alone, solitude, hermit, emotional withdrawal, disruption, stand your ground. These are all like the emotional and physical things that you're experiencing right now. And at the bottom, we sort of have how everything relates to everyone else around you, because I do feel like some of those external situations that you're dealing with have to do with like other people and your relationships with people and whatnot. We have the Two of Cups, the Three of Cups, and the Four of Wands. So like that's to me like a lot of group dynamics. That's like family, friends. This could be like a partner of some kind, but I do feel like for the most part I'm looking at things that have to do with friends, family, even like coworkers, acquaintances, just like a bunch of people in your life at the same time. And then we also have in this row the Two of Pentacles, movement, choices, decisions. Okay. For the most part, I don't see this like these group dynamics as like overtly bad or like disruptive in any way. It's more so the fact that it's coinciding with the way that your life is changing as a whole right now. So you have like this like tower moment going on for you up top, and that can like relate to literally anything. That can relate to like your social circumstances, your work, your emotional self, like everything. That can just, it feels like everything to me. Like it just feels like everything is just sort of like fracturing off and becoming a little chaotic in its own ways. And in a way, I feel like your social situations have just sort of become part of that, almost like it shouldn't be at the forefront of this, but in some ways it just sort of is, because people in your life like notice when things are a little bit off, and you start to notice like the ways in which, you know, your relationships might have weaknesses, because you're noticing where everything in your life has weaknesses. So there's that. And so I feel like when you're looking at your relationships right now with other people, we have spiritual union, foundations and achievements, and rejoice in celebration. Again, I don't feel anything like overtly terrible in these things. I feel like it might feel like there's chaos right now, but for the most part, I think you're gonna look back on this and have a really clear perspective of what things were, and what was actually going on. And I just don't think you have that perspective right now because you're in the middle of it, if that makes sense. Because I feel like I'm looking at some pretty solid connections for the most part. 2 of Cups, 3 of Cups, 4 of Wands, like those are all really solid things in my mind. And then we have just you like examining it, looking over it, and this is the only like earthy card that I'm looking at, the 2 of Pentacles, movement, choices, decisions. So I feel like while everyone is sort of off like in their own little world or like doing their own thing, you're sort of, this person is like more isolated back, and they're looking at all of these different worlds. In this card, this is a really good depiction of what's going on right now. You have these, oh hello we have these like 4 different elements and like worlds, and they're just sort of like juggling it and like looking at all of the, just like examining everything, just like everything. And no one else is really doing that right now. And in some ways, it's not like you're overthinking, because it's not about the thought process right now. It's like you're overfeeling, or like you're secluding yourself and like trying to like process your emotions. But in some ways you're doing that like with, when you're secluding and you're saying like, okay, I'm gonna let myself feel X, Y, and Z emotion, I'm gonna feel this thing now. Like you're trying really hard to like let yourself feel things to the point where it's, I don't know how else to explain it except like overthinking, but that's not what it is. And it's not that the emotions you're feeling are wrong, or that you're like feeling them too, I don't know how else to explain it. I'm gonna look at the oracle cards and see what's up with like the direction that we should be headed in. Acceptance, resilience, action. Okay, again, we have this image again of like someone carrying like a heavy weight. Just like this stand your ground, like the uphill battle sort of thing. I'm gonna read from each of these in the guidebook. Acceptance. The affirmation written on this is, I accept where I am and who I am right now. Each of us at some time has dodged our blind spots and then had the illumination of what actually is eventually confront us. What we do next is crucial. Do we accept exactly where we are, no matter how painful or confronting? Or do we retreat back into our illusions and remain stuck and unchanging? Choosing to accept ourselves fully in the position we are in enables us to take that next step towards growth. When we can plant our feet solidly into the earth and say, yes, here is exactly where I am and I accept this fully, then we can take the next steps confidently, honestly, and powerfully towards where we now wish to head. Accepting where we are right now in its fullness allows us to also accept that there may be some chaos in our change before there is full order again. There can be an exciting feeling rather than one that generates fear if we hold our new intentions clearly. I don't really have anything to expand off of that. I feel like that sort of speaks for itself, so I'm going to move on to resilience. The affirmation for this card is, I am strong and resilient. As we stretch and expand towards our intentions, we will most likely meet resistance or, wait for it, make mistakes or fail altogether. This is where resilience, confidence, and our inner will come into play. We might ask ourselves, how much do we really want what we are going for? Does what we want align with our needs and values? Are we really devoted to having it? Do we think we are enough? Do we have the strength to keep going? While all of us have at some time to go through periods of imbalance and difficulty, even of suffering, it is important that we grow to rely on our resilience. This is true power from the inside out. Building our reserves of resilience, this ability to stand strong and bounce back, is something that has at its heart wisdom and learning taken from experience. Remember, mistakes are simply information gathering. That's it. The less drama and guilt and shame you attach to them, the better. The experience of failure or mistakes is simply one of learning. That is all. With this card, I feel like when it comes to the next court, and that's going to come into play with this next card, which just says action on it. I feel like when it comes to taking the next steps in the situations that you're dealing with, you're like, again, not overthinking, but you're like trying to overfeel it. Like you're trying to like think like, what does my intuition say? What should I do? Like, what is the correct thing that aligns with like my purpose and how I feel and how everyone else feels? And you're just like placing a lot of emphasis on feeling, and you're trying not to like overstep or like hurt people's feelings or hurt your feelings, or like there's just a lot of, I don't want to do this, I don't want to end up doing that, I don't want to like cause X, Y, and Z to happen. And I think what this card is pointing out is that it's like okay if you mess up, like it's natural to make mistakes, and sometimes there's also situations where it's just not possible to come out of things unscathed. There will be people that are hurt, and there will be mistakes that have to be made and decisions that will have to be like done over again. Like it's okay if you have to like come back to a situation and start over. I mean, not everything has to be done in a linear order or has to be done but before a certain time period. I feel like this applies to a lot of different things going on in your life right now. That's why I'm trying to keep it kind of general, because that has to do with social situations. It also has to do with work, and it also has to do with like the way that you're treating yourself and your spirit in general right now. So, and then action. The affirmation for this card is, I am responsive and ready to take action. Sometimes we are afraid to move forward. This is natural. Change can be difficult, and if we have been hurt or have failed before, we are anxious about what may happen if we instigate change. Maybe, we think, it's easier and safer to just tread some water for a while. Instead of taking joyful action towards the things we truly desire, such as the writing of a book, undertaking study, accepting a new job, or seeking a better relationship, we balk, we freeze, we do not take the steps we could, and so we remain stagnant, don't grow. This moon phase encourages us to embrace action. Action is part of our humanity. We are not made to hide and refuse to blossom. Yeah, I feel like, again, this card is just sort of saying no matter what the action is, some action is better than no action, you know? And we have release is our last card, so maybe one of the actions is just like letting go of something. I feel like a lot of you have been letting go of a lot of things already, so it is sort of also like a looking back on that and being like, well, didn't I already release these things, and shouldn't I already be seeing this amount of progress? But I feel like you're still in the process of like a lot of growing pains and just sort of experiencing the discomfort that comes with the things that you've already released, and you're kind of like hesitant to release more things because you're still like in the process of like healing yourself from the things that you just released. It can feel like a whole cycle of just constant movement forward, and when you're not really given like a break, you have that tendency to like want to like seclude yourself. I feel like if anything right now is the time for more action than it is, you know, like secluding yourself and feeling a little bit more. I feel like you do intuitively know what is right anyways, so I don't really see like retreating as much being as productive as it might be in another situation. Okay, I think that's it. Those are all the cards. That does conclude your reading, pile 3. If you liked your reading, if it resonated with you in some way, please feel free to like, comment, subscribe, all those fun things. I will try to post a new video every week, and I will see you then. Bye, friends.